to be here today by Ms. Daniels, who I know from way back in the day. That's it.
Okay, all right. When you open this can of worms, then people say, I wonder. All right, so let's just get it out. She was in one of my classes that I taught at Padgett Prime. Back in the day.
Back in the day. But I mean,
and I recognize greatness then.
thank you, Ms. Daniels. Thank you, Dr. All right, so I originally did a PowerPoint presentation, but then I shifted yesterday, and it's fine. I'm going to talk a bit about Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, what we do, why we're here, and I think hopefully answer your questions as to the role that we play in Bermuda's economy and our trade and commerce. I am Rita Smith, and as Sandra said, I took over the leadership at BEDC in 2014. I actually was hired to work at BEDC in 2009, and I was the Economic Empowerment Agency Director for the corporation. And it was interesting because the government had an agenda, a social agenda back in 2007, 2008. I'm not sure if people remember, but they wanted to embed more direct support within certain areas of the island. And so today we have 4 economic empowerment centers through that initiative. One is in what we call Northeast Hamilton, which is the northeast quadrant of the city of Hamilton. One is in Somerset, one is in St. George's, and then the newest one that came on board in 2023 is in Southeast Hamilton, the southeast quadrant of the city of Hamilton. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but what I will do is proceed with how my presentation goes. So essentially BEDC, we started in 1980 as a direct initiative of the government of the day, coming out of the uncertainties and disturbances in the riots of the 60s and then on to the 70s. So there was a fair amount of discontent in the country, and as a result of that, there was commissions that were, there was the PIC commission, there was a report that was done to look into the disturbances and the riots and unfortunate incidences that took place. There was a range of recommendations that were made out of that report and survey. One would be the creation of Bermuda Day, a day to celebrate Bermudians, right? So a shift from the Easter parade to something that is more Bermudian and helps us to celebrate who we are. Bermuda Economic Development Corporation came as a direct result of that because there were a number of small businesses, mostly businesses owned by people of color, who felt that there was a fair amount of disenfranchisement taking place with regard to access to capital, access to support for their small businesses, and so the government determined that we need to create what we call Bermuda Small Business Development Corporation. That was our formative name back in 1980, and it was modeled a bit off of the Small Business Administration in the U.S. and other examples and models around the world. Our fundamental core is to provide advice and support to Bermuda's local, small, and medium-sized businesses and enterprise, right? And we provide a range of services to take anyone from an idea phase, whether or not they want to be an entrepreneur or not, how do we validate that and help them to get started, right through to the life cycle of scaling and growing, becoming resilient. And if they want to exit that business, then obviously we'll provide that support to them. So from those humble days, in 2011, we actually transitioned into what we call now Bermuda Economic Development Corporation. And that was because the government of the day said that we needed to have a broader remit than just entrepreneurship. We needed to be able to focus on geographic locations throughout the island and provide additional support and advice to these areas, and hence the creation of the Economic Empowerment Zones. And so our extension agreement is that, no, we're not moving away from entrepreneurship. Businesses and small businesses, I think, are lifeblood of any economy, and I'll speak a little bit about that a little later. But it's about how do we then provide additional support to geographic locations that need additional support and advice, right? When we first started with the Northeast Hamilton Economic Empowerment Zone, and we interacted with the stakeholders there, the people that live, that work there, you know, there were some stark differences between that part of the city and that part of Bermuda and the rest of Bermuda with regard to socioeconomic differences, with regard to education levels, with regard to access to opportunities, with regard to conditions of properties, with regard to, some would say, an increase in antisocial behavior in that area. So when we started to work with that community, we were really good with business advice. If you want to start a business, you come to us and we'll tell you. But what we weren't good at is figuring out how do we work holistically in a community to help them to thrive and aspire beyond what they currently were at. So we ended up bringing in partners who had knowledge in aesthetics and beautification, the Department of Planning, the Corporation of Hamilton. How could we invest additional resources, time, and opportunities within this area to help it to improve? We started to partner with social service providers, right? Because we would have people come into our office and say, I have a dispute with my landlord, or I cannot pay the rent, or my electricity bill is being turned off, and we're a business support agency, and so we're like, well, we don't know, but we know people who can. So we started to bring in agencies such as the Sunshine League, adult education, anyone that had an impact or some touch point within Northeast Hamilton to gather around the table to figure out how we can provide services to the people who live in that actual area. Some things we did, we hosted, we used our office for access to therapy sessions or counseling sessions for residents in the area. We partnered with the Daily Bread, and any additional food that was being collected by them from restaurants, they would then drop them off at our office in Northeast Hamilton for residents in the area to take advantage of. Same with clothes, right? So partnering with Salvation Army and church organizations to figure out how we can bring a holistic picture. I say all that to give you a sense that at our core, BEDC is an entrepreneurship and business support agency, but I think fundamentally we're at a human-centered organization. We try as best as possible to collaborate and work with partners to address a whole person as opposed to one individual area. And if we don't have the skill set, then we figure out other people to bring to the table. But ultimately, we want people to have pride in where they live and where they work. We want business owners to be prideful in what they do and feel that they can accomplish anything. And then we want people to feel safe where they work, and where they live. So I think people often ask the question, how do small businesses, like what role do they play in our economy? And you often get this statement that, you know, we're the drivers of the economy. And I think that is a true statement. I looked at the employment statistics for 2024. The Minister of Economy and Labor just put out the employment brief, just broke down the number of jobs and the areas and who employed those people. And once you start to segment it, out of the roughly 33,000 jobs in 2024, once you segment out international business, public administration, that's the government, health and human services, maybe education a bit, then you're left with about a pool of around 16, 17, 18,000 jobs roughly, depending on how you segment it. All of those jobs are created not by mega companies or large-scale companies. They're created by individual, small and medium-sized enterprises. And so they are driving our economy. And sometimes it's easy to overlook that because you may see a 1, a 2, or a 3-person organization. But if you have thousands of these small and medium-sized businesses, then they tangibly do contribute to our economy through creating jobs and employment. I always fundamentally say to people, if you want to create jobs, you have to create businesses, because jobs do not appear by themselves. Businesses create jobs, right? And so if we can get people that are thinking about being either self-employed or employing others, it always helps the economy in some way, shape, or form. I think also, fundamentally, entrepreneurs solve problems. And historically, I think there's been this default that the government or governments solve problems. I think governments provide public policy that creates the framework for solutions to be achieved by others in the community. I think that's their fundamental greatest job. And I honestly believe that some of the world's most compelling issues today will be solved and have been solved by entrepreneurs. I also believe that every single person, whether or not you own a business or not, has the ability to develop an entrepreneurial mindset. The ability to see a problem and to solve that problem in some way, shape, or form through critical thinking, right? Through a response, a quick response, and sometimes through collaboration. And so I say that to say that in some of the services that we provide, we also work with people to help them to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, right? You see an issue, how do you change that issue into an opportunity? How do we then help to solve that or come up with a solution in some way, shape, or form? So if I go back to businesses, SMEs as we call them, small and medium enterprises, drive Bermuda's economy. Local entrepreneurship fuels innovation and resilience. Because anyone that's had a business knows that you have to be resilient, right? You have to be a risk taker. You have to have these competencies in order to make it work. And I think that those companies do well in other places, right? I think it helps within service agencies or organizations, right? I think that we have a great charitable ecosystem here in Bermuda, or service ecosystem here in Bermuda, right? A lot of people who volunteer their time, energy, resources, great trust. And I think that happens because they have built, it's not just about giving back to our country, but I think that people here fundamentally have built up this resilience to say that, you know what, we can solve this problem if we figure out how to give back in some way, shape, or form. And it makes sense because we're an island, 700 miles at sea away from no one. In all honesty, right, given the trends that are happening in the world, in the past, we have had to be resilient ourselves in order to survive. And I think that resilience will go well in the future. BEDC, I think one of our key roles is also to help entrepreneurs and people to bridge potential and opportunity in some way, shape, or form. And we work with people every single day to help them to see that what might be a challenge is actually an opportunity if you just shift it and look at it from a different perspective. I already spoke about Bermuda Small Business Development Corporation started in 1980, and we've had some fantastic people lead the agency. I think our core is that, and I don't know if many people know this, but Bermuda Small Business Development Corporation, or BEDC as we are today, was actually the product of a partnership between the Bermuda government and the local banks. They all contributed seed money in order to start us up because they saw that there was a gap that wasn't being met by both the government or the banks. So how could they collaboratively come together to help our entrepreneurs and businesses? And so it's always important to come back to that point because honestly, success within our country only is achieved through collaboration. I think the Rotarians, you guys knew that firsthand. As I said, in 2011, we had a broader remit to now not just focus on entrepreneurs and small businesses, but then how do we take that mindset and go to a broader economic development remit? And so today, we do support entrepreneurs, but we're also venturing into projects, national projects, such as helping to address housing needs, right? How do we work with investors and developers to create housing that not just meets the affordable needs, and that's important. Our colleagues at Bermuda Housing Corporation are focused on that. But then how do we also create housing that meets other needs in the community, right? We know that we have people at different income levels, but what is current across all income levels is that housing is the fundamentally first issue that faces all Bermudians. And anyone that wants to come and work in Bermuda. We're also working on a vertical farm project because as a country we import 95% of our food products. That is a challenge, that is unsustainable. And we have high food costs because every time a food product touches another hand, there is a cost that's associated with that. So can we work on bringing down food costs in some way, shape, or form? Can we create more food security within our country? And can we embed innovation and entrepreneurship, well, innovation within our agriculture production in some way, shape, or form? Then our clients indicated that they were having challenges getting a merchant account at the financial institutions, or it was very expensive and prohibitive for them to have an e-commerce platform. We created one ourselves, and so we have a platform called Buy Bermuda that enables any small business who doesn't have an e-commerce space and doesn't have a merchant account to take payments. And it's been quite successful. It's free. There is no cost. It's just your time putting up your product or your service on that platform. So fundamentally, it's another example of how we fill the gap and how we've taken a challenge and turned it into an opportunity in some way, shape, or form. I think you get the sense that our mission is to inspire, inform, support, and grow Bermudian businesses or businesses that are here in Bermuda. And we do that by fueling an inclusive and thriving economy that creates opportunities for all Bermudians. Now, in our act, we define exactly what a small business is, and so there are some parameters. We also define what a medium-sized business is. And that was important because people were saying, well, this is a small business, this is a medium-sized business, this is a large business. So what we didn't take was what the common definitions are globally. We customized it within the context of Bermuda. And I think that has provided some clarity with regard to how people classify businesses. You can read that in the handout that I gave you. So our functions with regard to entrepreneurship is that we provide financing and guarantees directly. BEDC has the ability to provide collateral or guarantees to bank financing. And we've done that for thousands of businesses, I would say, over the years. Currently, we can guarantee up to 75% of a loan if you don't have sufficient collateral. And our dollar value for any one particular business is $300,000. We also found that there was a gap in financing in Bermuda, so we also provide direct financing through microloans. And so businesses can apply to us for funding from us up to $30,000. We also provide that for sports clubs because they are businesses. They're community centered, but they are businesses. And from time to time, we create special products for particular industries. We offer business advice and technical support, so anyone can come to BEDC for a complimentary business advisory session. They tend to be an hour. We have officers that will meet on a daily basis, about anything related to entrepreneurship and business, then you can come back many times. That's a free service that we provide. You can go to our website and book an appointment, and we're happy to sit down with you. We manage economic empowerment zones, so as I said, we have 4 across the island, and our goal is to obviously help those geographic areas be the best that they can be with regard to being economically viable, whether that be from businesses, whether that be from social economic issues that may be facing them, whether that be from safety issues, and whether that be from physical improvements. And so we've utilized either our resources or our financial capability to help to improve those areas at a time. We also maintain a national business register of small and medium-sized businesses, as well as those entities that are within our 4 economic empowerment zones. So our role in trade and commerce, hopefully it's become a bit obvious now, but I'll speak to that. We support SMEs through access to funding. And I think that we're the only agency or organization that provides that direct funding. Our colleagues at the financial institutions are great, and they work with businesses of all sizes. But in some cases, it doesn't make sense to provide small amounts of financing to businesses. And sometimes someone only needs $10,000 to close a gap, or they may need $15,000, and so that's where we step in. And then, as I said, our guarantee has always been helpful in helping entrepreneurs and larger scale businesses to push through that finish line with regard to their funding that they need. Our agency encourages innovation and expansion. So it's not just about creating a business in Bermuda. Absolutely, that's the foundation core. But Bermuda is only a capture market. We only have 60,000 people. We have around 500,000 visitors, right? But if you are providing a product or service that meets a need, a gap, it is a guarantee that someone else in the world probably needs that product or service. So we're always encouraging our entrepreneurs and our clients to think global. You can act local, but think global. Is there a market that you can penetrate? And so we try to help them to do that in some way, shape, or form. We also provide avenues for them to get international experiences. So most recently, we took a contingent in our Enterprise Bermuda Incubator Program to New York, to the Fast Company Innovation Festival, where they got exposed to best practice in entrepreneurship. They got to meet with influencers. And so anytime you get the opportunity to experience something more global, then that goes well for that business. I think our role is also to help to build a resilient local trade network in some way, shape, or form. Whether that is providing opportunities for small contractors, for at least 6 years we had a small business construction incubator, because tradesmen, they know their trade, but they just needed to have some help with regard to, with regard to business acumen and how to be better in their trade. But also, BEDC is great at creating networks of collaboration between entrepreneurs, especially in some cases where entrepreneurs or businesses may think that they are competitors. We live in a world now where the most unlikely people have formed alliances in some way, shape, or form. And then ultimately, I think one of our key roles in trade and commerce is to promote economic independence. For ourselves as individual people, for our country in some way, shape, or form, we need to become more resilient, especially in the context of the chaos that's happening currently globally. I'm trying to be diplomatic. Right? Yeah, very diplomatic. Right. So, I mean, I spoke about the Empower product support commerce, as I said, direct financing. These are loans that have we have the lowest interest rate on the market, and especially if you're a business that's in one of our 4 economic empowerment zones, then you get a much more lower interest rate. Very generous repayment terms with regard to supporting businesses. We also offer debt consolidation microloan, That was a product that we created because in the context of Bermuda, how do I say this diplomatically? We're not a very forgiving country, right? We judge and label people by their past mistakes as opposed to acknowledging that someone did something, but then we always have this aspirational goal to do better, right? That's fundamental core to being human beings. And so there are businesses that have debt, but we don't have a mechanism for helping people to really get out of debt. So we have a debt consolidation microloan, and so we work with businesses to try to help them to improve their credit rating and to move to be much more viable businesses. As I said, we have a sports club microloan to help the sports clubs invest in their infrastructure or in their knowledge and talent with regard to their volunteers. And we just are getting ready to have a graduation the first week of November with our very first sports club incubator, where we have 4 sports clubs go through essentially a 6-month program helping them to become better business owners. And they will get, through a partnership with the Department of Youth and Sports, they will get deployment of grants based on their completion or what their vision is for their clubs. And so we want to help them move beyond just the model of having a bar as a revenue generating opportunity. These clubs have fantastic underutilized assets, infrastructure, right, that I think that a lot of people would love to have. How do we help them to leverage these infrastructures for community good and also as a sound revenue stream beyond just legacy? In our economic empowerment zones, we offer preferential rates and terms. We also offer tax relief and preferential interest rates, and duty relief in cases. So we also want to coach these 4 zones as areas for investment by businesses. If you're looking to set up a business, why not consider one of these 4 zones that will then give you access to great support, but also concessions and incentives to help your business have a better chance of success. We know the first 3 to 5 years of any new startup is the most riskiest part. So what can we do as an agency to support them through that to make sure that they come out on the better side post 5 years? And then I also mentioned our loan guarantees that has helped thousands over the years since 1980. I think it's always important just to reiterate why we create economic empowerment zones. It is to bring focus to areas that have been disenfranchised or maybe not given the same amount of support, focus, or advice compared to other areas. And I think that we can all think of areas like that. But also easy strengthen community in some way, shape, or form, right? It fosters local business growth and employment. We help to revitalize neighborhoods. And then we link this concept of economic empowerment with community pride in some way, shape, or form. For the last 3 years, I believe, we have partnered with the Bermuda Half Marathon Derby through sponsorship. Now people ask, like, why? That's not a business per se. I mean, it's a business, but you know, it's not a business within our economic empowerment sense. But it starts and finishes in one of our economic empowerment centers every single year. Either in Somerset and finishes, and now for the past few years, on Court Street, or it starts in St. George's on Court Street. It actually starts and finishes in areas that we have influence, but the finishing is much more amplified because that was the birthplace of where the half marathon derby is. The knock-on effect is that some people may think just having an event is an event, right? Having a race is a race. But it is so much more than that. It's a fundamental economic development tool. And especially if you focus that event in areas that need that investment, the knock-on benefit of people coming to an area, spending in an area, feeling comfortable in an area, just has the ability to amplify that. And so the more that we can take our money and our donors, our sponsorship, and focus on initiatives and programs that actually amplify within our zones, I think that we will be making an immeasurable impact. BEDC, I said we provide advice and support. We do that every day, but we also then provide what I would say a much more focused level of support. We have in the last, I would say, 7 years, 8 years, created incubators and accelerators. They may be sectoral. So like I said, we've done incubators for small construction firms. We did that for about 8 years. We've done it for the retail sector. We've done that for about 3 years. And now we have a broader incubator and accelerator program. We have a summer student entrepreneurship program. So how do we build the next generation of entrepreneurs? Well, you have to start now. You have to develop an entrepreneurial mindset where they believe that they can actually create their own business and work for themselves and hire other people, as opposed to just the traditional option of working for others. And those businesses, those young entrepreneurs, they build their business in 8 weeks. They start it up, they run it, they generate revenue, they keep that revenue, and they compete for prizes. And it's exciting to see how something that they may have in their head actually comes to life in real life. We've done that for the last 8 years. We have the Enterprise Bermuda Incubator, and that is an incubator to help catalyze any new startup. We provide wraparound services, so not just advice and support, but we have what we call incubator hubs, physical hubs that we have built out for all our economic empowerment centers. We have 3 of them. Businesses who are in our incubator program can use that for free. They can host meetings, they can photocopy, they can run their businesses, and then we utilize these hubs for any entrepreneur that needs additional space in some way, shape, or form. Because if we can reduce the cost, the operating cost for businesses in those formative years, then they have a better chance at success and sustainability post 5 years. As I said, we're getting ready to graduate the first 4 clubs from our sports club incubator, so we're excited about that. We created a cooperative incubator. Businesses that were interested in potentially forming cooperative businesses and using the co-op business model as a way to grow and build their businesses. And we're going to relaunch that. We're going to do our second cohort in 2026. Those graduates, we took them to New York to explore other cooperatives. So they saw firsthand how cooperatives meet a social need, but they're also very, very profitable. If you guys think about Welch's or Lender Lakes, Butter, these are all cooperative businesses. United Healthcare, a cooperative. We have a commercial kitchens program. So we had a lot of food entrepreneurs coming to us saying, you need kitchens, you need commercial kitchens. And we found that there were a lot of commercial kitchens that were underutilized, courtyard, and sports clubs, churches, schools. And so we actually have agreements with those property owners to take over their kitchens, and then we upgrade those kitchens, and then we match entrepreneurs with those kitchens, and they rent, and they make their food and sell their products in some way, shape, or form. We also are looking at restaurants, so if there's any restaurant who may have downtime, you know, they may only use their kitchen from morning till lunch, but then the evening time they close. There's an opportunity to generate revenue by providing that, and so we provide the oversight of the kitchen, operating the health licenses and all of that, and then we match entrepreneurs who need space. We also do accelerators. So if you're past the startup phase, but you need support and wraparound services to scale your business, then we provide that also. And then ultimately, you can provide mentorship, workshops, and training in some way, shape, or form. So we have an active annual rotation of courses, anywhere from Entrepreneurship 101 to Mindset, to QuickBooks, to Finance, anything that you need to know about entrepreneurship in any way. So our impact, I would say at least over 20 million in bank loans that we have supported. I need to quantify that, so this may be within my timeline, but we've been writing loan guarantees since 1981, so 40 plus years. So, you know, I think it's very important when when you go to a bank for finance and you don't have adequate collateral, that is a deal breaker between being able to start your business or grow your business or not. Training thousands of entrepreneurs and finance in some way, shape, or form. We currently are going into November, so this is what we call Global Entrepreneurship Month, and we celebrate entrepreneurship through a range of activities to help entrepreneurs to inspire, connect, and grow both here in Bermuda and connect with their counterparts overseas. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to get involved. And then ultimately our impact is that we help to create jobs. We help our economy, our locals to spend, people to spend in our economy by buying these products and services. And ultimately, BEDC helps in building a strong economy for the year. So I think I want to kind of close with my last few kind of points around, is there an opportunity for Rotary and BEDC in some type of partnership? Good. I think there could be. I think Rotary has a lot of great individuals that have knowledge in some way, shape, or form, somewhere. You may not have earned a business, but you have the ability to provide advice and support to someone you don't. So is there an opportunity for members to support entrepreneurs with mentorship or curated programs? I think Rotary has the ability, if you're minded, to sponsor competitions and training. There may be a young Rotarian or a young person who wants to have access to an opportunity, but financially can't afford it. And obviously, we do what we can. We subsidize, people who are interested in entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form. But is there a way to sponsor something tangibly in the work that you're doing, and can it be looked at from the lens of business ownership and entrepreneurship? There are always community projects if you're not economic empowerment units. Can we beautify it in some way, shape, or form? Can we clean up the streets? Can we pick up trash? Can we paint buildings? We literally have done that within our units. Can we contribute to public art in some way, shape, or form? So there could be joint community projects. I think highlighting BEDC businesses if you know one, or clients who have come through our program in some way, shape, or form. I think that word of mouth and promotion of businesses, especially small businesses, is invaluable within this country in some way, shape, or form. So if you've used the product, if you like the business in some way, say hi. This is a great business and this is why. And then I would say advocacy. Is there an opportunity to encourage entrepreneurship and business formation worldwide in some way, shape, or form? As I said, to solve our world's most pressing issues and problems. So, I just want to speak about maybe one or two case studies. We have, if you can, I don't know if you know Stephen Johnson. He has a vegan plant-based business who operates out of one of our commercial kitchens. I think he's getting to the point where he's like, well, can we scale? But I think without that commercial kitchen, he wouldn't be at a point to figure out, does he need to scale and have his own kitchen? And so that's a tangible case study for us. Pinky Kadis Emery, who owns Salon Pink. Wonderful beautician and salon right next to Hamilton Pharmacy is one of our graduates of our program. And so when I look around Bermuda, I can see tangible examples each and every day of people who have been touched by BEDC in some way. And I think with all our staff, I have to give a shout out to our staff because they think they do an incredible job of supporting and touching those businesses tangibly. So where are we looking? And it's interesting because we just completed a 5-year strategic plan for BEDC, and we're actively working with the Ministry of the Economy and Labor on creating a national entrepreneurship strategy for Bermuda. So both of those projects have been very interesting. With our own strategic plan, I think I press and challenge us to think about how we can do more, how we can be expensive, and how we can move beyond just what we currently provide. So, I mean, we will be expanding on incubator and accelerator programs, right? Because there are gaps, right? We figured out the startup phase, we figured out kind of the expansion phase, but there is this middle phase of entrepreneurs, right, that need to have that support. They're beyond startup, but they still haven't got to accelerate. Now, how do we help them in some way, shape, or form? We're looking at new financial products. Do we offer direct financing loans in a higher amount with a low interest rate? Do we go up to $100,000? Do we provide an investment vehicle, right? So investment-ready entrepreneurs who want to have an equity partner, can we provide financing for that in some way, shape, or form? Can we create an ecosystem where peer-to-peer lending happens, where people feel comfortable with lending to other people, and maybe BEDC provides guarantees for that peer-to-peer lending, so people still feel protected in some way, shape, or form. We need to do more with regard to data. So we want to strengthen our data-driven insights. We want to collect data. We want to be able to analyze it so that we can share it with the public, and so that entrepreneurs have access to that data to help them to make decisions on what business, where to start, what does it look like, and how do they go from there. And then, of course, we always want to deepen our partnerships and collaboration, because honestly, we just can't do it by ourselves. And so, including Rotary collaboration in some way, shape, or form, if it makes sense. So, key takeaways from my hopefully inspiring speech or talk is that, BEDC, Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, is central to Bermuda's business development. It is key. We combine commerce and community empowerment in a way that I think makes sense for our country. Our EEZs ensures that there is this equality and inclusive growth, and that communities are not left behind. And that Rotary can help amplify this impact in some way, shape, or form. So I want to thank you guys, and if you have any questions, I'm willing to just talk and answer.
Very good.